me. My name is Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Oh, welcome guys, Miss Liz in the house, and I have the incredible TK Bush in the house. We're going to be talking about her incredible book called The Unveiled. We're going to be also talking about her tea today. Her tea is eventful, turbulent, and fulfilled. That is the tea we are serving in the house tonight. This afternoon, we are bringing you real life stories and real life tea. We don't serve a beverage in this house. So before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to all those platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Lemonade, Blue Sky, Clapper, all those good platforms. And then jump over to all the podcast apps: Spotify, Listen Notes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, all those good ones. And if I haven't mentioned them, check them out. All the podcast apps out there, Miss Liz is on those as well. And then jump over to babyboomers.org because Miss Liz is partnered with them. And if you're looking to be on other podcasts, there are incredible. I think there's over 50, 60 podcasts over there as well. So if Miss Liz is not the flavor for you, there's another podcast over there that you can jump on and you can enjoy that as well. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro. And then we're going to get TK in here and we're going to spill some tea and we're going to have some fun today. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time and Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart. And if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time and Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where stories remind us that behind every heartbeat, every scar, and every silent struggle, there is still humanity, resilience, and hope. Today's guest brings us a unique blend of medical experience, emotional depth, and storytelling that explores both the science of healing and the shadows people carry within themselves. Please join me in welcoming TK Bash, author, cardiac technologist, and storyteller, whose work blends suspense, emotion, healing, and the reality of human nature. With more than 2 decades of experience in the medical field, TK has spent years helping care for hearts physically, while also exploring the emotional and psychological complexities people carry internally. Her stories are deeply shaped by life experience, family, resilience, and the understanding that people are often fighting battles others cannot see. Her future work in newsletter, The Pulse, reflects themes of healing, love, grief, trauma, resilience, and the lingering shadows life leaves behind. TK's tea is eventful, turbulent, and fulfilled. And perhaps that is what makes storytelling so powerful. It allows people to feel less alone in the complicated moments life brings. Today's Tea Time will explore healing through storytelling, balancing medicine and creativity, the emotional pulse behind suspense writing, family resilience and overcoming adversity, and the connection between human emotion and healing. TK reminds us that healing is not always neat or simple. Sometimes healing begins when someone finally feels understood. So grab your cup and join us for a heartbeat and heartfelt, thought provoking conversation filled with emotion, awareness, and real life tea, truth, experience, and awareness. And let me get TK in here and spill some tea. Welcome, TK.
Hi, Miss Liz. How are you?
I am good. And yourself?
I'm great. Thank you.
Well, TK, let's get to know you a little bit before we jump into your book and newsletter and all that good stuff. So who is TK as a little girl and who is TK now?
Oh gosh, two very different people, but you have the same passion for writing and reading. I have been doing both my entire life. I don't. There was not really a time when I wasn't reading a book, unless I was really busy. But writing, I pretty much did my whole life. And I think as a child, I was a little bit more withdrawn, a little bit shy, as people may know me, may think that's strange because I'm definitely not shy now. But, yeah, I guess that's the main difference. Just a little bit more outgoing now.
So TK, how old were you when you started writing?
I was, oh, goodness, very young. I think probably I started writing stories maybe in elementary school. Maybe earlier. I learned to read at a very early age, so I was always trying to write my own stories as long as I can remember. Really, I wrote a lot in journals, just jotted down on whatever paper I had, passing notes. Somehow, I would make those into stories too. So.
I always like to learn when writers start writing, right? Because is it an early journey or is it a late bloomer journey? Was it something that you used to pass time, or was it something that you used to experience, like bring the imagination out or express yourself? What did you use your writing for when you were little?
I always had a big imagination. I still do, and so I think, as a child, I probably wrote to fulfill that imagination, but also I would write, journals. At that age, I was probably calling them diaries. But so I was writing, my own life, and I would take those things and sometimes imagine different lives, different characters, and just create. I just always liked to create this other world outside of, my own. And once I learned how to put them down into stories, that it just kind of took place. It kind of just went from there.
Well, we got to know you a little bit. So TK, let's jump into your book, Unveiled. I'm going to pull it up for all the listeners out there. For everybody, the video watchers, you guys can see the cover, but I'm going to get you to describe the cover for the audio listeners.
Did I lose you there?
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yep, I think I lost you for a second.
Oh, there might have been just a little glitch, right? Those little technology glitches, right? So if you could just share a little bit about the cover of your book and that for the audio listeners, what's on the screen. For the people that are watching the video, they can see the cover. I have pulled it up. So let's just get into the book a little bit. Nope.
Oh, are you there?
Can you hear me, TK?
I think we're okay. I don't know what happened. We had a little internet glitch there, but I think we're back.
Yeah, so if you just want to share a little bit about the book.
Sure. So Unveiled is a story that I based out of the cardiac world that I actually worked in. And I decided to craft a character who's based on, someone that has some emotional background things, some emotional trauma, things from past relationships. And I kind of took it from what do you do when the past comes back? We try to bury things, that have happened to us a lot of times in relationships, and it would be nice if we could keep them buried, but they never really stay that way. So I imagined, what happens if if it disrupts your life, going forward. And with the main character, Tessa, I actually had her lose her memories. That way, she could craft a whole new life, because I also think how cool would it be if, you could just have a clean slate and just move forward, new life, new career, and just kind of forget all those bad things that happened. But that's not reality. And same thing with with Tessa. She finds that that is not possible either. And it actually becomes really suspenseful for her because her past actually could threaten everything in her future. So it's the story of just how she kind of deals with that, and finding out the truth of what happened before her future, and how much she wants to hold on to that by finding out the truth, or just kind of leaving it behind.
So TK, in this book that you've written, Unveiled, is it part of you in the book?
I think, yeah, I could say that. I think there's a part of me in all of my characters that I create. And it's funny because I kind of find that out as I write. One of the things I noticed when I wrote, when I looked back over my edits and I was, kind of looking through her development, because the characters kind of develop themselves along with, whatever you're doing. And I noticed that she was hurting herself a lot. And I made the comment like, man, she gets hurt a lot. And I thought, wow, that's so me. And anybody who knows me know I am somehow always hurting myself, not more so when I was younger than now. And I unintentionally kind of shifted that in there, and I wasn't even aware I was doing that. But I think there's a little bit of me in her, and in some of the other stories that I've written before that. But also other people and situations that I've kind of gathered, and so she's a little mix of more than just me, other people that I know as well.
So TK, on the cover, when you came up with the cover, could you tell us why you put those colors in and the way that the page is ripped? For all my audio listeners, it's like the book is ripped in half.
Mm-hmm. So I actually had a really good color developer. She did an amazing job. I just kind of told her what I wanted, and she crafted this, and I kind of blew me out of the water. I was really surprised. It turned out so well. But the tear is kind of the rip between her memories, what's in the past and kind of where she is now. And she just has this, there's this rift between reality, not reality. I mean, I guess it's all reality. There's this rift between the past and the present. And she can kind of see that at some point she does have her memories, and she has to kind of decide. So there's a pull between, like when you're tugging two things apart. And the car wreck was because of the accident that happened before her memories. And, the blood is just for dramatic effects. And,
you gotta put a little bit of blood, right? Grab the people.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing to put on a book cover, right? Put the blood.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
It draws in people, right? It's like that little vampire kind of. Let's get you in here.
Exactly.
Well, we got a couple questions that are coming into the studio that I'd like to get out to you today. Sure. The first one that came in is from Mac. TK, what inspired the title Unveiled?
I actually went back and forth to try to figure out the right title. A lot of my stories that I craft don't start out with titles. They, I get halfway through. Sometimes I've gotten all the way through and I'm like, great, what do I call this? So I just kind of think about the theme, because as I'm outlining and starting these books, especially Unveiled, I don't always know, I have an idea of how it's going to end, but it turns out to be a little bit different each time. And so I don't want to stick a title and then the story itself changes. So with this story, I felt like, Tessa has these blinders on because of this new life that she's created. And she is, through force, almost through emotional force, through, and I'm trying not to give too much away about the story, but
we don't want to tell the whole story. We want everybody to go out and grab a copy.
She's kind of forced to, tear those blinders down, and face, her person or her reality. And so Unveiled is just kind of the unveiling of that, of taking off those blinders and learning how to forgive and how to move forward. And I thought that was a good single. And I also didn't want like a really long title. Not that long titles are bad. I just felt like for a thriller or suspense, shorter is a little bit better. And after narrowing it down, that was kind of what I came up with. So
yeah. I kind of like that you said that, like unveil, take the blinders off, because we all wear blinders in life, right? And we don't take them off sometimes. And sometimes we need to remove those blinders so that we can see deeper into understanding people and understanding the story behind it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So TK, how did storytelling first become a passion alongside a healthcare career for you?
Mhm. So like I was saying earlier, storytelling has always been a passion of mine. And I started out with, I always had a dream that I always knew I'd be an author. Like, it's just, as a child, when you ask kids, what do they want to be when they grow up? And sometimes it doesn't end up being that. Me, I always knew, yeah, I'm going to be an author one day. And, as you get older, life happens, and so I started a family very early, and, I did the adulting things that we did, and I still kind of wrote in the background, but I ended up in the medical field actually when I was specifically in radiology, because I was actually pregnant with my daughter, and I had a sonogram, and I thought, wow, I think I might actually like to do this. And it was at that time when I found out about radiology, and my I was under the assumption that sonography and radiology were kind of this one and the same. And then I found out, it wasn't. But I realized later that the creativity behind being a radiologist, it's kind of one and the same. You have to be kind of creative. I'm not a radiologist, that's actually a doctor. But you have to actually be a little bit creative and think outside of the box. And I think that's why I kind of navigated to it so quickly. And I went to school, and my whole purpose was actually to go to school, get a good job that I liked, and kind of settle down and write. And it didn't exactly go that way. Actually, my writing kind of took, a backseat to my, the medical career. It became very demanding, but it was very rewarding, and I really did enjoy it. Something was always pulling me back to wanting to write, to get back into that and take it more seriously. And as soon after I received my degree, I went into the cardiology field, and I thought, whoa, this is something way different than anything, probably the hardest thing I ever had to learn to do. But I just loved it. But that was a little bit more of a demanding career. So again, writing just kept taking a back burner. And then, one day finally, I just decided, if I don't do this now, it may never happen, and I don't want to have any regrets. So I still tried to work and just start taking my writing a little bit more seriously. And it worked out so that I was able to actually go part-time with work and be able to write. And it took a while. I mean, the process from start to finish for Unveiled was probably about 3 years. And and that was, everything. That was, getting the idea, going to my first writers conference, finding out what genre I was even writing, and learning all these things. And I found out, wow, writing a book is not, writing a novel is not like writing those short stories as I did as a kid. This is a whole different world. And there was many times when I wanted to quit. I said, maybe the medical field's better, I'll make more money that way. But it just, I just wasn't the same. I wasn't the same without doing it. And so I actually tried to incorporate the two of them. I've been very passionate about, relationships and relationship trauma, and just some things I've dealt with in the past. And I thought, well, hey, these are all matters of the heart. These are all emotional things that we go through. And hey, I work in cardiology, so heart, So
she's got a lot of heart.
We can make this work. So that's kind of how that happened.
I love that, because you put heart into the writing, heart into work, heart into life. We got to all put our hearts into what we're passionate about. And I really like that you said, do it now, so there's no regrets. Because how many times have we put things on hold and say, we'll do it tomorrow, we'll do it next year, we'll do it in 6 months. And then we realize that 20 years go by and we haven't done it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you have to love, somebody told me a long time ago, if every job paid the exact same thing, what would you do? And I don't know who said this. I heard it a long time ago, but I thought about that, and I thought, well, definitely I would write, no brainer. I would write books. Even if I even got to a point where I said, even if I don't publish, I just want to do what I love. And I think that you have to do what you love, even in the medical field and the cardiology field, whatever you're doing, you have to love it. Otherwise, your life just isn't the same. You don't have the same fulfillment. And for me, writing it's fulfilling. And even though the medical field, is also fulfilling, it's just kind of, it didn't take the same place in my heart, pun intended.
We got a lot of heart in this tea. You know, and that's why I love having conversations like this, because you know sometimes we don't understand why we got so much passion into what we
Yeah.
do, right? And
Mhm.
you said you started at such a young age of writing, so like in elementary school, they
Mhm.
not many writers start in elementary school. They
Mhm.
either color or doodle or do arts, like you know, paint or. But writing is not something that somebody starts at a young. How old were you when you started reading? Because you said you learned to read young.
Yeah, I was pretty, I'm not sure exactly the age. I have this memory, and watch, my mom will watch this, and I don't know if she'll kill me for saying this, but it's not a bad memory. But I remember she had me read this book. It was Winnie the Pooh. And you know, when you're very young, you don't, you know, you have fuzzy memories, you know, like I just kind of remember this time. And I just remember sitting in this, you know, in the living room with this Winnie the Pooh book, and like she wouldn't let me get up until I got this first page right. So I just remember going over the words of this first, you know, this page of this book. And you know, going forward, you know, when I think back to where we were living at the time, I think, I mean, I must have been younger than 5. I mean, I don't think I was much older than that. And it might seem like, well, why, you know, why did she do that? But you know, I'm grateful for that, because it started me reading at an early age. And you know, she was teaching me to read at a very early age. And I mean, that set me up for life, basically, you know, and my dreams. So yeah. And you know, I'm not sure exactly when I could say, okay, I wrote my first story at like 10. You know, I don't really remember exactly. I just remember like in elementary school, I was writing stories. In middle school, in my English classes, I remember we had this project where we had to actually put together a physical like book out of like cardboard and paper. And that was my favorite project. I actually still have them, but that was my favorite project all over, because look, I made a whole book. So now I've made a real book, like a novel. So it's kind of nostalgic, but
Well, kind of inspirational as well, right? It motivates you. Like on the harder days when you wanted to quit, you look at that little book and you say, you know what, I did it like this, and
yeah.
you know, and maybe bring that to a book signing to show people, you know, like this. It started here to here.
Yeah, it's a good idea,
Uh,
actually.
right? I just put bugs out there. I just poke at my guests and say, you know what, maybe I know I would enjoy that. I'd come up to the table and I'd say, oh my goodness, you started here and look at you here. How did you feel when you first became published?
You know, it's kind of unreal. I really didn't expect to be published when I was published. You know, I thought someday, you know, you always want to think positively, and you know, I had those good vibes. Like I'm going to get published someday. I'm gonna, you know, it's going to happen. You know, I'm thinking it that way. I'm not going to say it's not going to, but when it happened, kind of took me off, you know, off guard. And the things that happened the things that had to line up for me to be able to publish it, it's just uncanny. Like it's just like God is all over that. But the things that the timing of when it happened. I mean, even when I was first starting the book, I had no idea that in a year, but from me finishing the rough draft, that I would have been published. So it was emotional. I feel like it was about the same reaction of when I actually put the ending. I mean, I don't have the end in the book, but I thought like when I actually finished it, I had to write the end on the end just because it was like the end, and I posted it online. Look, I finished. But and I cried and I laughed, you know, and so it was kind of that same. In fact, I was a little bit stunned. The publisher that was having me sign the contract, she said, "Aren't you excited?" And I was like, "I am." And she's thinking that I didn't sound excited, but I didn't really know how to react. It was kind of one of those, "Is this real?" moments.
Right? It's so surreal that you're
Yeah,
like, is it really
yeah.
here? Did I really do
I
this?
promise
Like,
I'm excited. I promise, but
well,
yeah.
we have a question here from Rochelle, and it is, what was the biggest challenge in balancing healthcare and writing?
Definitely time, and just having you know, my job. I think the medical field in as a whole, but especially like, and you know, I can't really speak to all the, you know, the departments in the medical field, but just like radiology and cardiology and interventional cardiology is very demanding. It's emotionally, mentally, physically draining. It's very stressful, good and bad stress. And there was a lot of times when writing just was kind of impossible. And then I was, you know, I was newly married. My now husband, we had just met right before the pandemic, and I I think I had started another book before that. It's on the shelf. It was like my first attempt. That'll probably never get out there. But I
Never
had
say
started
never,
that, and
TK.
yeah, I still have it. I haven't gotten rid of it, but we'll see. But I remember starting that, and that, I mean, that took a while, but I kind of had to cram into like a short amount of time. You know, I would have my work week and I would say, okay, well, this is a Saturday, I'm not doing anything. And, you know, I would just write like all day long and pump out like 3,000, 5,000 words. And then it'd be many days when I didn't write. And then I would feel like, oh, this is never going to finish. But at that time, when I was working on that, I didn't really have a real deadline. I mean, I had a deadline, but not, you know, it was kind of a hopeful
Not
thing.
heartfelt yet.
Yes, exactly. But when I started Unveiled, I was working part-time, and it was still really difficult, but I would just write like in my spare times. Like I would write in between procedures. Like I had this notebook that I carried to work, and I would hide it because I was afraid somebody finds this, you know. So I kind of slip it, and you know, if we were in between,
You kind of get the early manuscript, right? Like it's like,
yeah. Or if I was on call for work, you know, and just waiting to get called in, I would do a lot of working or a lot of writing and jotting in my notebook. But even if I wasn't actively creating, you know, crafting chapters or pages, I was still thinking about my characters, thinking about the setting, you know, thinking about, you know, where the story could go, putting notes in, you know, my phone note, you know, the notes in your phone, and always actively working on it. And so whenever I had like a real deadline, when I was like, okay, I'm really going to take this seriously, there was a little bit of panic, you know, like how am I going to juggle both family, the book, but you really have to I had to make it a priority because I had to see it as, this is my profession, this is my career, this is, you know, it was difficult, kind of the shift between, well, this is my career, you know, as a cardiology tech, and this is a side thing for writing. So I had to switch my mentality with that and really say, this is what I want to do. So I need to take this seriously and just make that time, you know, maybe instead of watching those shows or the movie I wanted to watch or sleeping in on the weekend, you know, I just had to kind of find time, and it wasn't always easy, but you know,
well,
we
have a comment here that I'd like to read out to you. And it says, LL, she was about 3 when she began her desire to grab a book and find her reading spot with her, from Auntie Pam.
Oh. I'm guessing that's from my mother. I'm guessing, yeah.
And we have a question here. Has your work in the healthcare changed the way you understood human relationships?
I would say definitely. You know, you see a different side of people in healthcare. You know, we learn and we train in our jobs to see, you know, patients that come in, family members especially. You know, you don't know what they're going through, and whatever you're going through in your own personal life, you kind of have to put it to the side. And even if you have like a difficult, and I think this is with any job in like customer service, medical, you know, every person that you see in front of you, you are the first person possibly that they're coming in contact. So whatever happened before that, you know, you have to pretend like this, or you have to, you know, act as if this person is the first person you're seeing. So, you know, you learn about empathy and just being there and showing up regardless of what you're going through personally. And, you know, from seeing how, you know, my own personal reactions and perspective, and then seeing that from other healthcare workers that I work with, and then patients and their family members and people going through just horrible situations. You know, they've received bad news or good news, or, you know, people's, their shields are kind of down a little bit in you know, in the healthcare, patients, family members, and patients more specifically. And so you get to see another side of that. You get to see more of that emotional side. And there's a little bit more, you know, grace, I think, that you have to have for people in those situations. And then you see, you know, the people you might see in the store or, you know, anywhere else in life, or your family in your house. And I am a people watcher. You know, I watch people. I have to be careful because sometimes I'll just be staring at someone and I'm like, I gotta stop staring at them. But I watch people's reactions and I watch how they, you know, interact with each other and in relationships. And I think that helps a lot with my stories. You know, in the beginning, or not in the beginning, but before, I just did it just because, you know, it was fun. But now, you know, I noticed that I do it to even character develop. But sorry, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that's all good. Because you're going right into the next part of this is the character building, right, of your story. I like watching people too, and I'm just like, I wonder if they're a couple, or are they brothers and sisters, or are they having a rough day? Like, what is going on? And then you kind of put it into a story, right? And you kind of tell that story. Have you built some of your characters from some of the people you've watched?
Yes, I've built my characters from people I've watched, people I know, people. It's kind of a plethora of things.
She's a creeper.
No one specifically. I'm putting that out there now. It's not about anyone specifically. I've taken little bits and pieces from, people I've watched, people I know, and in situations, and I just kind of dump them into different. And one thing I actually like to do is in a lot of my stories, there's always a what do you call it, like a balance between making decisions, whether you make what's the right decision or wrong decision, or, decision A, decision B. And I take my characters and I say, okay, well, if you make this decision or if you make that decision, and that will be like a lot of times my protagonist and antagonist, because this one will make that decision. And it's kind of like that what if factor, so along with creating those characters based on, situations or people I know, then I take the, which way, which door do you choose, door A, door B, and make that into different people. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun doing that.
Or you fall down the rabbit hole and you're like, "Ooh, this is where I'm going."
All the time. Yes, that happens a lot to me. Or I think I'm going to come up with a twist like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if I do this?" And then I find out, no, that didn't work. So then I got to back out.
Well, we have a question here for you, and it is, why do suspense stories emotionally connect so deeply with readers?
I think because it relates to real life. I mean, I used to watch a lot of romance movies when I was younger. I think I was just I was kind of a hopeless romantic. I thought it would never be my life. So I watched a lot of those movies. And as I got older and realized life was not that pretty, and, I started watching Lifetime movies, and I would watch those movies to make me feel better about my life. But I think that those watching, reading and writing and, watching things with suspense, it shows you that life is not like black and white. There's always shades of gray, and just, seeing people deal with ways of getting through things and getting to the other side. There's a little bit of suspense in that, even if it's not a thriller or, not like an edge of your seat, that just wondering what's going to happen. We all live like that. What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen next week? And we don't know. So there's a sense of suspense there too. And then in like romantic suspense, there's these two people or, a situation, and you think, oh, well, they're going to make it. And then no, they're not, and now you don't know what's going to happen. So
now you got to turn the next page and you got to get to the next chapter.
Yeah, and I think that keeps people reading. So I think that's probably why people probably enjoy that. They enjoy the edge of your seat type thing.
Did you write a part in your book where you were like, oh my God, is this really going to happen? Is that what's going to happen?
I did, actually. I did not expect the ending. I had a different ending in mind. And when it came to me, some people that may not read or write, if they hear us say, my characters are talking to me, or we go, do you know what they did? And they're looking at us like, what? But they really do. They really do kind of change when you're writing, and you're going, whoa, I didn't see that one coming. And it's kind of strange because, I'm here writing it, but they, the stories just kind of come and the characters change. So in this particular one, I had an ending in mind, and I thought that was actually the whole premise of why I started writing the story. So when it kind of changed, I thought, well, that's great. And I ran with it. And then I had to figure out how to dig myself out of it, but still stick with that idea. So it was very fun, but very difficult. And I guess the difficult part made it a little bit more fun because it was challenging. And but yeah, lots of surprises there.
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of authors that I interview. They're like, I wanted this story to end this way or to start this way, but it didn't start that way. And the character was like, no, we're not doing this. you know, it's almost like the inner child, right? The inner voice saying, nope, this is not the way the story's
Yeah.
going to be written.
Mm-hmm.
And we fight with that sometimes, and we're just like, no, but I want it this way. And then you know, you kind of sound like a little crazy person, like you're in the room and you're
Yeah.
like, no, yes, no.
Yeah.
Kind of like that little devil and little angel on the shoulders, right? It's just like,
Oh, yeah.
who's winning this
Definitely.
battle? Like,
Definitely. It's so true. When I went to my first writers conference, I actually went to a really big one, and I was like, wow, I always felt like I was a little strange my whole life. And I thought, I am not alone. These are my people. This is not just me. So,
we're not strange. We got a group. We have a question here from you from Lon Todd. It's what lessons from your own life has influenced your writing the most?
Particularly with Unveiled, and again, a lot of the stories I write, I actually didn't realize this until, when I started the journey on this novel and the actual, like, writing a novel seriously, there's a lot of things I learned about, just even crafting a novel, like the blueprinting of it. And one of the things they tell you when you start writing is, what is your why? And I struggled with that for a while. I'm like, I don't know why, because I want to write a book. Why? Because the story sounds good. I couldn't come up with why. And it came to me one day when I was driving in my car, and I thought, I write all these stories and they all had like a basic theme that they were following and they were very similar to. And, and they all had to do with relationships, and a lot of times like the past, and, coming back to present in the future, or in the present, and dealing with that and moving on. I thought, wow, I have like a theme going here. And I actually was kind of hard on myself. I thought, why do I keep writing that? I don't want to write, all these traumatic things. And I thought, oh, that's my why, because in those stories, I'm able to actually get sometimes closure from, things that have happened in my past that I never got closure to, or, there's a way to solve, why this happened. Or, if I could go back in time and say, I would have done this differently, or I wish I had said this differently, or, what if this person had done this, all of the what ifs and the whys. And I think when I write those stories, I kind of, not fix necessarily, but I get those closures, or my characters get those answers at the end, or they get, I get to decide how they move forward. How, it's almost like I get a little bit of therapeutic, thing from them. And I didn't realize that that's what it was until actually I had completed this one, that I really realized that I'm very passionate about that subject of just relationships and moving forward. And, we deal with a lot in our everyday life, but when we tie ourselves to another human being and, we're hurt from that, and we have those emotional things, there's ways of dealing with that. There's therapy, or, however you want to deal with that. But if I could, make it a little bit entertaining, put it into a story, where you think you're being entertained, but really you're like, there's actually a little bit of healing there. And I know for me that it's been very healing and, entertaining at the same time. And I hope that maybe, that could be the same for others that read the stories as well.
Well, I know for myself, writing saved my life, because it was my way of expressing, right? What people wouldn't want to hear or want to listen to, the paper and the pen listened, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We have a question here from Bargain Holmes. How do you approach writing emotionally difficult scenes while keeping them authentic?
I don't know. I kind of feel like I keep them authentic. I mean, when I am writing a scene that's emotional, I feel like I have to kind of lean into that a little bit to really take how I would feel about that situation and push that into my character, so that the reader can feel that that is what they're feeling. And I think that you kind of have to give that, you have to be authentic about that. And sometimes it can be hard. I mean, there's parts of, even this story that are very similar to a similar situation that I may or may not have gone through. So, and, it's almost like you remember, that you recall those, and those feelings come back. But again, it's therapeutic, it's a way to push through. And it really helped me it helps me get through those things that I may not have healed from then by writing it out.
We have a question for you, TK, and it's how important is realism when writing medical scenes?
I think it's important, definitely. I also think that, when you're writing a novel and it's fiction, I think you have a little bit of room to kind of play with it, depending on what it is. Like in my book, I have scenes, I have therapy scenes, and I also have, it's based in the cardiac cath lab, which is, my profession. So, I just kind of, I thought, what a good setting to have. You don't really see that setting in many books. So as far as the cardiac background, I had to actually struggle to not be too accurate so that it didn't kind of sound textbooky, but the psychology part, because it's a thriller, and it's, I played with that a little bit. And I kind of stretched the limits on how accurate that could be. So there's actually a disclaimer in the book because it's not accurate to real life therapy. But the cardiology scenes, they are accurate, but I just didn't make it so, I don't know what the word I'm thinking of right now, but I didn't make it, it's lightened so that you can understand the story. You don't get lost in the terminology, but you still kind of know what's going on. And I think it actually helps, if anyone's ever had a cardiac cath or knows somebody, you get a little bit of insight into this without, losing, the piece of the story by reading it.
Absolutely.
So it's just a balance, I think.
A comment that came in is, I'm fascinated by how real life experiences can become powerful stories. I think those are the strongest stories, right? Was when we put a little bit of our own lives into it and keep people guessing. Did it really happen? Is it part of her life? Like, have you had people and you've done interviews in that as well, TK, but have somebody read the book and say, did this happen to you in real life?
Not yet, but it hasn't come out yet, so we'll see.
Oh yeah, it's not even out yet. That's right.
No, yeah, that's okay.
Miss Liz is ahead of herself. Slow down, Miss Liz.
But I feel it coming though, Miss Liz. I feel like there's going to be questions.
I gotta get you guys on the seat of your pants, man. Like, the book's not even out yet. We're gonna talk about the book is coming out soon.
Yes.
So let's share a little bit about this book, because I already got my listeners engaged and they're like, oh, the book's there? No, it's not there yet. Tell us when this book is coming.
It was actually supposed to come out in May, but we wanted to kind of promote it a little bit more. So we pushed it to October. So the release date is October 6th. The pre-orders for Kindle and ebook are already available on Amazon. The paperback should be available any day now. We're just waiting for some stuff from the formatter, and I'll be posting online when that is available, because I know a lot of people have been asking. But it is finished. It is coming out. I promise. There's a lot of people that are probably like, "Yeah, sure, you're writing a book." I've been saying this for a long time. But
you guys better buckle up when you tune into Teatime.
Yes, it's coming, I promise.
I'm taking you guys on a bumpy ride today. Buckle up, guys. Oh, that's so funny. I knew it wasn't out yet. I don't know why I said it was out. I just wanted to get all these listeners already, like, go get it. Like,
that's okay. Yeah, we need that. Yes, go look for it. Put it on your calendar.
October 6th is a good day, guys. Remember that date, October 6th. For all the listeners out there, October 6th, go and get it. But you can get your
more
Kindle
suspenseful to tell them. It's a suspense.
We're taking you on a ride, guys, and there is a ride in the book. We have another question here: is did any personal experiences directly inspire characters in Unveiled?
Not directly, but I think, indirectly, probably. Like I've taken experiences from my own life and others and people I know, and I just kind of, it's like I put them all in a bowl and kind of shook it up, and I just spilled it out and created characters off of that. I guess that's probably the best way to put it.
And just for all my listeners out there, I usually get a lot of authors that their books are just about to be released or coming soon. And just for claimers out there, if you guys are like, Miss Liz, I wanted a book, well, you can go get your Kindle copy in that. We have a question here from Callan. Is if a reader can learn one thing from your book, what would you have that be?
I would say that there is forgiveness and grace in confronting your past. And it's possible to move on, whatever your circumstances, whatever you've been through. There is, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know that's cliche, but it's so accurate. You can get through anything. And when there's forgiveness and grace, a lot of times for the forgiveness is for yourself. It's not necessarily always for that other person, but there's healing in that. And, when you're able to kind of let go and move forward, that takes a lot of courage. And I would like, readers to be able to see that in this book and in the future books. It's kind of the theme that I will be sticking with. So just, forgiveness and being able to move forward.
Well, TK, you just mentioned future books. So is there a part 2 for Unveiled?
I have left it open for possibility, but I am working on a separate novel now. But yeah, Unveiled is standalone, but it does have possibility. I have the notes that it could be possible to become a sequel.
I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, you can come back on Teatime and we'll just buckle up for the second round.
Sounds good.
Well, I want to get into your tea because the tea that you gave me was eventful, turbulent, and fulfilled. Why'd you give me those 3 words for your tea?
So turbulent, I think, describes my life because it's never like it's just coasting. It seems to be just kind of up and down and up and down. And it's like this ride. And whenever I think things are kind of leveling out, it's like the shake, it's like, I think of a plane, and I used to love to fly. I just still don't mind flying, it's just, it takes me a minute, and I understand. I did all the research on turbulence. I get it, but it still doesn't make it any easier. And so I relate that to, life, especially my life in general, that it's going to come, it's part of the ride. And, even though I might expect it, it doesn't always make it easy, but I know that, I'm going to get to my destination. And, I forgot what was the other 2 words.
Eventful and fulfilled.
Fulfilled, because I think that no matter what I've been through and what I have, I'm very fulfilled. There's so much that has happened in my life and, happened with my family, and just to be able to just be sitting here and talking to you and, with this book and just, being alive and well. I mean, I'm very fulfilled. I feel like I am very blessed, and I can't even imagine, my life being, I just, sorry, I'm like getting lost in my thoughts here. I just feel full. I feel like no matter what's going on, I feel like if nothing else good happened for the rest of my life, I would be okay. I would be content.
And eventful, why that word?
Eventful kind of goes along with turbulent. It's just never boring. I mean, I wake up and think my day is going to go one way, and it does not. I mean, we could see from the internet connection issue when we first started this podcast.
We were robotic. We were like, wah, wah, wah. That's how we started late, guys. I did see the comment that we did start late. Everybody, my listeners are on my toes all the time. Like, where's Miss Liz?
That was an internet situation, and having to shift rooms and internet and all of that. And I prepared all day for that, and and we see how that went. So it's that kind of goes hand in hand. It's just eventful. Even when I think I'm bored, like there's times when I'm like, oh, I'm so bored. And then I've learned not to say that, because I realize every time I say that, I get bombarded within a few days, and I'm going, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm not bored. So
that's enough. Enough.
Yeah. I think I just didn't want to do all the things that I needed to do. So it's always something. So that's kind of why I chose those words.
And the drink that you turn to when you're writing, what is it?
It's actually not really one particular thing. It could be water, coffee, tea, sometimes wine. And it also depends on the time of day. In the morning, it's probably typically water or coffee. Tea is, it's also iffy about like whether it's warm or hot. If I'm outside, sometimes I'll write outside, and if it's warm, then I don't want hot tea, but then I'll make iced tea or I'll drink cold water. So I don't know if I have like a specific one. I just kind of rotate between all of those things.
And one word that describes your writing style.
Oh, that's a difficult one. Let's see. One word that describes my writing style. I'm going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say unique because, you know, a lot of people can say that their work is unique, but I think, honestly, I think everyone's work is unique. Even if you have a story that's like someone else's or a very similar idea, it's coming from your individual thoughts, your individual feelings, and who you are. And a little piece of us goes into everything that we create. This is like your story is your baby, that's your creation. And so if that, in a sense, is unique, you know, it's like a fingerprint. And that's how I look at, you know, my writing is no matter how similar it might sound to something else, it is definitely unique.
I like that you put the word fingerprint in there,
I
especially
like
when you write
analogies.
suspense.
That's good. I didn't catch that. I like it.
Don't leave your fingerprints, guys.
That's a good one. I did not catch that one. Wait, no, I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose.
I always, my brain, I don't know. Sometimes it just pops out and catches little things. I'm just like, oh my God, she writes suspense and she said the word fingerprint. Is there a fingerprint in the book?
Yeah, you know, it's not a bad idea. I can call the formatter right now.
Right at the end of the chapter, the end, fingerprint.
Add a fingerprint in there.
You know, that might be a good way to sell the book too, right? Get everybody's fingerprint.
Yeah.
They get an ink pad and, you know, you never know. You might catch a good suspense character.
You have the book full of all these fingerprints. I was stay on the good side of the law.
Mickey's going to shoot me. He's going to be like, Liz, like, what are you doing?
Thinking about Mickey.
He's going to say, that Miss Liz. Your biggest inspiration from your stories, what was it?
My biggest inspiration? I think really just, like I said, just kind of the closure and healing. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but it's really just a way to get through those things. And it's almost like I'm holding someone else's hand, you know, my character, like they're going through this and I'm like, you know, how about you do this, or let's try that, or, you know, and then I think, man, you know, that if I should do that next time, or, you know, hopefully not a next time, but if it happens, you know, then it's just kind of like a walking path. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but.
Well, kind of looking in the mirror, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So you look like that's your character and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's me. I have to make this choice.
Yeah.
I have to leave this relationship. Yeah. I have to take another car.
I get a lot of woulda, shoulda, couldas, actually. So,
I'm telling everybody, go out October
10 years
6th.
ago.
Now I'm interested in reading this book because I'm sure there's going to be I'm going to look for the fingerprint.
Yeah. I look forward to talking to you after you read it.
Right? Did you find it? What does fulfillment mean to you today, TK?
Fulfillment just means, you know, I don't think that we're ever really completely satisfied. And, you know, I think that if we were, life would be kind of boring, you know, and I think just being fulfilled, just, you know, if you just feel content, and, you know, you just, whatever it is, whether it's family, friends, or even if, you know, you're content with being yourself and, you know, traveling the world or sitting on a couch and watching, you know, movies, whatever makes you feel at peace, I think is, you know, whatever is going on, if you're at complete, you know, peace, then I think that's kind of fulfillment, at least, you know, how I think.
And what calms your mind down after a stressful day?
Wine. No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna whine a little bit.
I mean tea. I meant to say tea. Actually,
you know what? Tea is good. You can add a little bit of ingredients.
Tea is a good one for that. Yes, I do like chamomile tea, but I kind of have to just close everything off. Like I have a bad habit of, you know, looking at my phone before I go to bed and when I wake up, and I know that, you know, the scrolling sometimes just gets out of hand, and then, you know, my mind's just going and I don't have a really restful sleep. So I've tried to get in the habit of putting, you know, my phone aside and like listening to like a ministry or like my church service, or even just like soft music, or just something to kind of phase out all of the noise of the day, and that kind of helps me wind down at the end of the day. And it doesn't always go that way, but at least that's the goal I try to try to work up to.
I call that doom scrolling. You know, we get so lost in it before we go to bed or when we wake up, and I'm just like, oh, here we go. That's starting the day off. I should have never looked at that. Like,
Yeah, it's really hard because the second you pick up your phone, it's just there, and I was actually going to get off of social media, and then I was told, well, you're writing a book, so now you can't. You have to be on social media. So I'm just
I
kidding.
wanted to do that years ago. I want to get off, and they're like, you're a podcaster, you're an interviewer.
Yeah,
How
no.
do
In
you
fact, you need
expect
to
do
be
that?
more on social media. Like,
You
okay.
got to get on more platforms. You got to do this.
Yeah.
You got to do that. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah. I had
But
this
there are
idea.
days, when your body just shuts down. It's just overwhelmed, right?
Yes.
And especially when you're a writer, I find that the mind is always going, right? It's always like, I need to tell a story. I need to know a story.
Yeah.
But then we lose our focus because we're doom scrolling, or we're looking at something or listening to something, and we're just like, oh, my spouse calls it the squirrel. He's like, you just squirrel all the time. Like, you started here, and now you're here, and you're here, and you're here. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just the way I am.
It's a lot of information just pumped in. Just, you're scrolling, and it's just all this stuff flooding your brain, and it's already adding to the flood that's already happening. So yeah.
Is there a flood in the book?
No, but maybe the next one.
I'm just giving her a bunch of ideas. She's gonna be like, oh my goodness, I got her.
We're gonna make a word search, Miss Liz. Okay.
That would be a good thing too, like at a book signing, have a word search for certain words in your book.
That's not a bad idea either.
Right?
I'm writing this down.
I'm just giving you a bunch of things. Fingerprints, word search, bring that homemade book. TK, if you could have a theme song for the book Unveiled, what would it be called, and what kind of beat would it be?
I think for this one, it's about how people react to relationship trauma and how far someone's willing to go to find out the truth, or to get closure, or to find out, to get to that other side. What pushes the limits? How much is someone willing to risk to get those answers?
Take the risk, right?
Yeah.
Well, TK, if you could just share and spell out your website for everyone to check it out, the date that the book's coming out again, and all that good stuff, and your final message for all the listeners today.
Sure. So my website is tkbush.com, and I am on Facebook and Instagram. My book comes out October 6th of this year. And I think what I hope the listeners and readers take away is just, these books are entertaining. They are meant to entertain. They're meant to thrill. But, the background message behind them is, just to keep pushing forward. You can get through anything if, you have faith, if you believe in yourself, and believe that, you can accomplish anything really. And that no matter what your past is, it doesn't define who you are, and it doesn't define your future.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed all of the little suspense that we put out there. And for all the listeners out there, I hope you buckle up, because we're coming back at 7 p.m. with another author, and who knows where Miss Liz is going to go with that one. But tonight, this afternoon, I'm just going to give a little recap of what we did, and I will be back at 7 p.m. with the next tea time, and we'll do this all over again, guys. What a heartfelt and powerful conversation today. TK, thank you for bringing your honesty, compassion, and unique perspective to the tea time table. Your ability to blend medicine, storytelling, emotional truth, and suspense creates conversation that reaches far beyond entertainment. They reach the human heart. Today, we explored healing, resilience, trauma, family, and the emotional realities people often carry silently beneath the surface. One of the strongest reminders from today is this: people may appear strong on the outside while quietly carrying storms within. Throughout your work in healthcare and writing, you continued showing how important empathy, understanding, and human connection truly are. Whether caring for hearts medically or exploring emotional wounds through storytelling, your message reflects the importance of seeing people fully, not just for what they show the world. Your journey also reminds us that life can be eventful, turbulent, and still deeply fulfilled, all at the same time. Here is some food for thought to leave with everyone today. What if the greatest healing began The moment we stop pretending we are unaffected and finally allow ourselves to be human. Because healing is not about erasing pain. Sometimes it is about learning how to carry our stories with strength, awareness, and compassion. Thank you, TK, for sharing your voice, your heart, and your journey with the Tea Time community today. Until next time, keep listening to the pulse of humanity, keep sharing stories that matter, and keep serving real life tea, one conversation at a time. And I will see everybody at 7 p.m.
Thank you so much.